Wow. Look at all of these incredible faces. How is everybody doing? Oh my gosh. Oh, this takes my breath away. Hi. Oh my gosh. Renee, Jessica, Elka, Carolyn, Sarah. Oh my gosh. This is so y'all. I thank you so much for coming. Thank you so incredibly much for coming. How are you feeling? Take a minute in the chat. Just put a word of how you're feeling. What's going on in your head? What's happening in your body? Just just how are you feeling? Oh, yes. Ravaged, helpless, overwhelmed. Woo, disappointed, relieved. Can't wait to hear about that. Heavy, ragey, depressed, sad, stretched thin, concerned, lost, sad, confused, upset. Wow. I will not lie to you. I am angry, sad, disappointed, traumatized, terrorized, but absolutely unbelievably thrilled to see all of these faces that are looking at me right now. Because one thing about when something like this happens, it's very, very easy to define the world by the worst players in it. And that's not the world. The people on this call are the world. And I wanted to spend this time with you today. And I'm going to do something I've never done before. As I think about this subject. Oh, wait, who am I? Hi, everybody. I'm Denise Hamilton. I'm the CEO of Watch Her Work. And I wanted to do this because so many people reached out to me to ask, what do I do? How are you? How do you feel? How do we solve this? How do we make this better? And I, quite frankly, thought this was gonna be 25 of my friends, and it turned out to be 300 people that registered. So I'm a little overwhelmed, but it literally brought such incredible joy to my heart because I needed to believe, like I needed to be reminded that there's so much beauty and power and wonder in this world. And it's too tempting to allow darkness to overcome light. It's just too tempting. I will not lie to you. This was the most brutal presentation I have ever put together. Mainly because it's forced me to really put into words what I think, what is my trauma. And I know that it's going to be hard for people to believe, wait, Denise has trauma? She's wonderful. She's happy. No, Denise has trauma. And I wanted to really be transparent and honest with you today. So I don't have a checklist. Let me just put out my disclaimer. I don't have, 7 things I can tell you to go do and racism will be over. I don't have that. What I do have is a gift that you rarely get to see. And I'm excited to share that gift with you. The temptation in this situation is to look for a 10-second fix for what is a 10-generation problem. All right, and there's no silver bullet. There's no simple answer. There's no thing that I can tell you to go and do that's going to make this better. And quite frankly, there are a lot of people who are producing great lists, books you should read, and people you should follow on social media, and legislation that you should push for in your local governments. Like, those are great. Those are great. That is not what we're doing today. So if you're looking for a checklist, you're in the wrong place. I'm going to do something that I haven't seen anybody do. I'm going to share my life with you. There's something that I think allies, non-Black people, do not understand about Black people. That there's a piece of us that we almost never share with anyone. We navigate the spaces that we all live in together, but we keep this part of us kind of secret, kind of sheltered, because either you're worried about the cost of sharing it or the punishment for sharing it. So I'm going to take a big risk today, and I'm going to share my heart. I'm going to share my life, my story. I want to walk you through some of the recent news stories that we've all seen, but I want to give you the benefit of my perspective and how I see it and how I probably see it differently than you do. So I'm going to ask that we have a few agreements before we start, okay? The first agreement is, I don't speak for all Black people. I am one person. I'm going to try to give you my perspective, my observations, but I don't speak for every Black person in the world. Different people have different belief systems and different concepts, and I'm just sharing mine. The second is, I'm going to use, for the purposes of our discussion, some generalized terms. Black people, white people, take it easy, relax. Let's not get emotional. We all know that they're generalized, okay? So just walk with me. It doesn't mean every single white person ever walked the planet. It doesn't mean every single Black person ever walked the planet. I'm using these as generic terms in the context of this conversation, because we have to have a language to process this conversation. The next is, I'm going to center this conversation with me. This is not a call to comfort you or to give you peace. This is a call to enlist you. I'm trying to radicalize you. I'm trying to share my heart so that you can feel what I feel. I think something that I see that is a perpetual problem in these discussions is
Hold on.
Something I see that is a perpetual problem in these discussions is that we give people scripts to say. When this happens, do this. If someone says that, then you should handle it this way. And I don't think that works, because as soon as you hit a situation that doesn't fit neatly in that box, you panic and you withdraw. And I want you to be honest for me in the chat. I want you to say yes if you've ever been afraid to engage in race-based conversations. If you've been afraid, I want you to say yes. Wow. Okay, wow, that's a lot of yeses. That's a lot of yeses. And so that is what I want to tackle today. I want to tackle the discomfort. And I think the discomfort sometimes comes because, in a way, a lot of you have been cheated. You've been cheated out of the truth of the story, either because you've only gotten one set of messages, or because the people of color in your life are afraid for whatever reason to share the truth with you. And because we have infantilized you, especially the white women on this call, that you can't handle it. You know, the book is white fragility and white, like, we have made it that you can't take it. And I'm going to step out today because I think you can take it. And I'm going to tell you how I see it. Doesn't mean that you have to see it the way I see it, right? Another disclaimer. But I just want you to see the world the way I see it, because I want you to not only view the anger that you're seeing right now, I want you to understand it. And I know that you think you might understand it, but I want to give you a deeper understanding, because I really believe that's going to allow you to have the language when you need the language, to know what to do when it's time to do something, okay? This is not political. This is not political. This doesn't have a single thing to do with who's in office. I remember I was in college when Rodney King, I'm getting ready to be 50 in October, and I was in college during the Rodney King incident. And I remember watching the video of Rodney King being beaten within an inch of his life and just being sure that those cops were going to go to jail. And watching the verdict, I remember I was in the student center and I watched the verdict when they were found not guilty. And my whole student center began cheering. I went to a school that was 93% white. And they all started cheering because they had gotten off. This has nothing to do with politics. And when we reduce it to politics, we minimize the problem. So let's really try to put that lens down. And I want you to try to live in my lens. Indulge me. Let's make a contract. I'm going to manage my anger and you're going to manage your tears. I'm going to manage my anger. You manage your sadness. I think that if we do that, we can meet in the middle. Okay. So that's another agreement. And we have said one thing that's been said a million times throughout the COVID, this whole COVID experience is we're all in this together. We're all in this together. And I hope that you will realize that we're not. We're not all in this together. Black people, people of color have died at vastly higher percentages as white people. We're not all in this together. The government put out PPP loans and 97% of Black applicants didn't get the money. We're not all in this together. And so I want to challenge kind of like our confidence in some of the go-to phrases that we use. And I want to show you how they're damaging because I don't think it's anybody's intent. And I want to help you to understand why sometimes they're problematic. And today we're just going to speak the truth. It's going to be raw. It's going to be unedited, but it's going to be the truth. And if you're here, it's because that's what you want. If you know me, if you've ever seen me speak, you know I give it to you straight, no chaser. Because I want you to be better. This is a critical time in history. This is our Selma. This is our critical juncture. And I think that I am given so much hope by the faces that I'm looking out at right now. So much hope. So if you're feeling hopeless, I want you to take that emotion and put that to the side. And I want you to try to approach this conversation with hope, with openness, with optimism, and being centered on me and on the experience that Black people are having in this moment, so that can empower you to be incredible advocates and allies. Deal? Everybody say deal. So I know you're still with me. Deal. All right, awesome. So I thought that we would
deal.
Yes.
Deal.
This conversation by taking a look at the stories that are in the news right now. Okay. And we have talked a lot about George Floyd, and I'll get to George Floyd, but I want to back up a little bit so that you understand to an extent how big this problem is. Because I think sometimes it's easier to make the problem smaller so you can manage it. And I'm going to encourage you to pan out a bit. So by now, hopefully you've seen the video. Ahmaud Arbery was jogging down the street, middle of the day, and two men, a father and a son, chased him in their truck. They cut him off. He tried to evade them. I can't imagine how terrified he was in that moment. Two men with guns pointing out the car, chasing you down the street. They scuffled and he was murdered by them, I believe the son. No, the father. No, I don't remember which one. But the story was buried. 2 months later, almost 3 months later, a video leaked of the incident. And that was when the authorities got involved. because there was national pressure. Now, when you hear that story, I'm sure you think, oh my God, this is horrible. How did this happen? What happened before? What was the catalyst? What was the, like all the things that we wonder. And I didn't wonder any of that. I think as white people, sometimes there is a temptation to see racism as an individual act. It's this is a horrible person. These are monsters. Why are they like this? Oh, I can't believe they did that. It's really terrible. I never see racism as an individual act. It's always a part of a bigger system for me. So whereas it might be tempting to focus on these two men and what they did to this man that was running down the street, I focus on the broader picture. All the police officers that were there, his body laid in the street for hours. The people in the area that knew about it, the multiple districts of attorney that passed on it, that's declined to prosecute. The fact that the whole legal apparatus of that area basically colluded to cover up a person's murder. Now I want you to let that sit with you just a little bit, that they couldn't do what they did without people that allowed them to do what they did. That's the world that I live in, that I can give you a million stories of things that have happened to me over the years, but I always see it as, how was this made possible? How did this happen? How did this occur? And I have to look, because if I'm going to navigate these structures, I have to look at the broader structure. And I think that's a very different way than that we think sometimes. I don't think this is just one bad person. I think this is indicative of a situation that I have to watch out for. I have to monitor. I have to figure out. I have to navigate. There's an exercise that I always do. When in doubt and I don't really know how I feel about a situation, I change the nouns. I just change the nouns in the story. So I want to invite you to imagine a universe where a young, blonde, blue-eyed girl was jogging down the middle of the street at 2:30 in the afternoon, and two black guys in a big SUV rolled up on her, cut her off, accosted her, and then shot her because she slapped them and tried to get away. Can you imagine a universe that those men would not be in jail in 5 minutes if they made it to jail? Can you imagine a universe that that white woman's body would lay in the street for hours? That is a tool that I want to challenge you to use. Whenever you're unsure, whenever you're okay, wait, if you change the players in this story, would this be different? And it would be different. And everybody on this call knows it would be different. One of the things about George Floyd's case that has been heartbreaking for me, I haven't watched the video. I haven't watched it because I don't need to watch it, because I've seen it 1,000 times. You needed the video. I don't need the video. And I wonder, can you imagine a universe that the murder of a white woman would play on TV all day, every day, for weeks? No. So even in our intention to help and to spread the word, to what we handle Black bodies differently. We handle Black people differently. Why is that? right? So I always just change the nouns, change them, and just see, like, let me be honest with myself. If my son was driving home and the cop stopped him, would he be afraid? What would he have to be afraid of? Do you ever hesitate to call and ask the cops for help? I never do that. But putting yourself into these stories, and I understand something that something has become very painfully clear to me in recent days. You don't see all the stories that I see. One thing about these algorithms is these algorithms are killing us. We're not all seeing the same stories. We're not all seeing the same news. So I want to challenge you. If there's one way you can help, is take the time to learn the story, learn what happened, right? I also want to, something about Ahmaud's case that is really powerful to me is that we always engage in this bizarre character assassination when a Black person is killed. Well, did they have a criminal record, and what was he doing? And we think he was involved. They pull up something he did in 1993, and it is so incredibly gross. We Black people are the only people that get tried for our own murder. We get tried for our own murder. We're the ones that are laying dead in the street, but it's our background that's on trial. I want you to think about that. Somebody posted George Floyd's criminal record. And I was like, does that have anything to do with the fact that somebody kneeled on him until he was dead? What are we doing? So you have to catch it when you see it. You have to notice these things, right? You have to identify how the narrative is being structured and how it would be different if it was your child, if it was you, if it was your husband, and try to play that out. Then you'll know what to say. You'll know how to address it, because you'll know it, because you'll see it through your eyes. The thing about this case that is the most painful is the fact that it took months. It took months of Black people in the community begging for justice, fighting for somebody to hear them. And the truth of the matter is, they learned a really hard lesson. We are not seen until you see us. The case is not made until the case is made to you. And I want you to think about how hopeless, how helpless that makes people feel. That I can be screaming, and I'm just screaming into the void until white people decide that this is terrible, until other people decide it's terrible. So it's great. It's great when you arrive. It's great when you enter the situation. It's great, but it's also soul breaking, because my voice wasn't enough. And for the women that are on the call, and I'm glad to see some fellas on the call. Hey, fellas. For the women on the call, like, the best analogy I can come up with is rape. I said he raped me, but 75 other people have to agree that he raped you for you to get justice. You're battered and bloodied, and you look like you were raped. But somebody else has to decide that you were. I'm not seen until you see me. I'm not important until you value me. I'm not wonderful until you say I'm wonderful. Until you let me into your better school, until you hire me to the coveted job. That's when I'm seen. That's when I'm valuable. Think of the damage of that message all the time. All right, the next story is the story of Breonna Taylor. And if you don't know the details, they're pretty horrific. Breonna is with her boyfriend. They're asleep. It's wee hours of the morning, and police bust in, come in guns blazing. The boyfriend reaches for a gun that he has a license for to protect himself. He doesn't know what's going on. And the cops shoot Brianna 8 times in her house, in her bed. And she's dead. Friday was going to be her birthday party. I think she was going to turn 28 on Friday. And she's dead. Nobody's going to jail. No justice. They're not arrested. It's oops, I'm sorry. Do you think that they break into white people's houses, kill somebody, and say, oops, I'm sorry? Really? Because it happens with some frequency in Black households. Then they say, well, it was a mistake. It was the wrong house. Now, walk me through this. Walk me through this. Let's say it was the right house. And these are people that are suspected of committing some terrible crime. Can you still go into their house and shoot them in their beds? Is that still okay? Of course not. Some plainclothes people bust into your house in the middle of the night and shoot you until you are dead. And nobody's going to jail for it. So think about how that feels. Think about Black people after all of the stories, the Trayvon Martin and the Tamir Rice and all the stories, to think of how it feels to hear these stories over and over again. You don't matter. And let me say something about Brianna. Brianna was also proof that you can't achieve your way out of being a victim. I can't achieve my way out of danger. She was an EMT. She's like a model citizen. Literally, she's a Sunday school teacher, like as sweet as can be, right? So you can't achieve your way. And I've had that. I don't know how many of you follow me. If you may have heard an incident I had a couple years ago in my neighborhood where the cops pulled me over and they asked me, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't understand the question. What am I doing here? Why are you here? Why are you here in this neighborhood? I drive a convertible Mercedes. And he said, why are you in this neighborhood? I said, I live in this neighborhood. And he said to me, you live in this neighborhood. I said, yeah. Whose car is this? Mine. And now I want you to understand, like you hear how annoyed and how irritated you feel right now. You hear how you're like, how dare he? How I can't say how dare he. I have to stand there and smile. I have to monitor my tone. I don't know how we switched roles. How did I become the peacekeeper? How did I become the peacekeeper? You're paid for the job, but I'm the peacekeeper. So I'll tell you what our beloved cop did. He made me move my car up closer to Westheimer, a busy street at the front of my neighborhood. And you know why he did that? So white people that were driving by could see him stopping Black people from driving through the neighborhood. He made me stand there for 25 minutes and then said, okay, well, I'm going to let you go with a warning. A warning of what? Well, we're just like cracking down on people coming through the neighborhood, shortcutting through the neighborhood. What are you talking about? What neighborhood, what public street can I not stand on in America? What, I can drive through any neighborhood I want to drive through. So I want you to understand, like, this is not some isolate. Why you see so much rage, why you see people just like broken, is their finger has been in a dam forever. I have to tell you, I want to get a pipe and break some. I am furious that like how hard this is. Again, even with video. It's so infuriating. And I want you to understand the root of it. It's not just this situation was really terrible. No, it's that the situations are always terrible. They're always terrible. One thing about policing that is really important, that I really want people to understand. I remember watching Andy Griffith as a kid. Anybody old like me that remembers Andy Griffith? Raise your hand. Okay, word. I'm with y'all. Okay, so Andy Griffith, the whole premise of the show was that he was gonna figure it out. He was gonna, there's a conflict, there's a situation, but he's gonna resolve it and everyone will be happy and this is gonna be great, right? Andy Griffith was not graded on how many arrests he did. He was graded on how he kept the peace. You didn't get promoted at their police station because you have 500 arrests more than Bill. You got promoted or you were in charge because you were good at resolving conflict and keeping the neighborhood peaceful, having people get along. You establish relationships. Like that's what you were graded on. And those of you that are business leaders, I don't have to tell you, what you measure is what matters. So if I only get success, I'm only deemed successful by arresting people. That's how I advance in my career. Okay, who am I going to arrest? Am I going to go to this rich neighborhood and arrest white kids for drug use? Because do we think that white kids don't do drugs? Do we think white kids don't have underage drinking? There's no property damage that white kids do. We think that? Nobody thinks that. But he doesn't go to that neighborhood. Why doesn't he go to that neighborhood? Because those parents have money, power, they can get an attorney, they can call the mayor, they can call the, right? So I'm not gonna go there. In Jamaica, we have an expression, monkey know which tree for climb. A monkey knows where to go to get a result. So I'm gonna go to the poorest neighborhoods because I can just round up 20 black kids. Who's gonna stop me? Now, check, 20 more in the win column, because that's what we're measuring. That's success. How did locking people up become success? How did that happen? All right, so the next story is Amy Cooper. Anybody know Amy Cooper? So I wanted to share with you the video. Jamie's gonna share the video and she's gonna play it really quickly because I really don't want to talk about it until I'm 100% sure that every single person on this call has seen the video. And I want to make sure also that now that we've been talking for a little while, you're getting a sense of my lens. And I want you to try to put yourself in my place as I watch this video. Okay? Javen, let's go ahead and run it.
Would you please stop? Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And
me.
I'm taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I'm in a ramble, and there is a man, African-American, who has a bicycle helmet. He is recording me and threatening me and my dog. There is an African-American man, I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog. Sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the ramble. Please send the cops immediately. I'm in Central Park in the ramble. I don't know.
Thank you.
So I want to tell you what I just saw. I saw a confession. I have been being gaslighted for the last year and a half about whether or not white women know the danger that they're putting Black people in when they call the police. And I just saw evidence that you know exactly what you're doing. So there's something about, like we talked about in the Ahmaud Arbery case, that white people feel like they have the power to monitor my body. Barbecue Becky, are you supposed to be in this pool? Or do you belong in this gym? Are you supposed to be in this area? Who let you in here? Or do you live here? Like, our bodies are always being monitored by other people. This woman did not want to be monitored. She was breaking the rules. I don't know if you're familiar with the ramble in Central Park. Central Park is huge. One little area is set aside to protect the birds. This man is on the board, is like a member of the Audubon Society for the park. He's put your dog on a leash. Who calls the police when they're wrong? Think of the power. Think of the structure that has to be in place, that she's doing something wrong. She's breaking the law, but she's going to call the police. And the fact that she was able to weaponize her whiteness. Did anybody notice her voice inflection change? She needs an Oscar. Did y'all notice that? And there's a man. Now, if there was no tape, that's the audio they would have used to put that man in jail. I'm going to say something that is really hard to hear. Really, really hard to hear, but I'm going to say it. The Amy Coopers of the world are the most dangerous predators in America. And they're your friends. They are the people who take advantage of their proximity to power, their ability to access brutality, to harm us. To harm us. Now, I saw this and it blew my mind. And then I went online and I saw the comments. The comments were about the dog. How is she? Look how terrible she is to this dog. She should not be a dog owner. How can she have this dog? You could have bought me for a nickel. The dog? What she did was attempted murder. She threatened him because she knew if the police came and she was in distress, he is more likely to be on the receiving end of harm than she was. There is not a law to punish her for that. There's not even a law on the books. There's more laws protecting the dog than protecting the man. More laws protecting the dog than protecting the man. Another phenomenon happened, which I thought was really interesting, right? So then there was, of course, she got fired. Then there was all the comments. Y'all are ruining her life. This was a mistake. How terrible. This is, and now remember, I told you at the very beginning, I see racism very differently. It's not individual to me. It is a system. And I watched the system work. Y'all are ruining her life. I mean, she made a mistake. She's stressed out because of COVID. Is she more stressed out because of COVID than all the rest of us? I watched a whole list of excuses being made for her. And we're gonna have to make a choice, you guys. You can't protect racists and be horrified by racist behavior. I'm gonna need us to make a choice. We're gonna have to punish some of our own. There has to be a consequence. And so I talked to a lot of people about this case, and they said, well, she lost her job. She lost everything. I said, she didn't lose everything. She's gonna have a job in a few months. Do you really think she's not gonna get another job? I am in danger of not getting another job. she is not in danger of getting another job. And I said, what is the consequence? I wish that outing people, doxing people, I wish there was another alternative. Please share it with me. If only she had strangled the dog, then maybe she would get some consequence. What should the consequence be? How do we in America feel about racists? Do we know? What is a racist? Who is a racist? If you're not in a hood using the N-word, are you still, is it possible for you to be a racist? Because when I listen to people, I feel like no one's a racist. It's a mistake. So if Christian Cooper, the black man in that video, had died that day, would it have been a mistake? If he had been arrested falsely, would it have been a mistake? Why can white people make mistakes, but we put 16-year-old children in jail for 20 years for having some drugs? Do we get to make mistakes? Oh, and then my favorite. So now we have the cannabis industry where white people all over the country are making money, investments. Because weed is legalized here and here and here, and there's all these marijuana, but all these people that have been jailed for decades, completely locked out. And I know this is heavy. I'm throwing a lot at you, and y'all are riding with me. I see your faces. You're riding with me. But I want you to, I'm doing it this way because this is how I experience it. I experience it as a steady drum, like a drop of water that torches you every single day. This is how I experience it. Like every day, what's gonna happen today? What is this today? So we don't even have the language to stop an Amy Cooper. We don't even have it. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And I want to share a concept with you that maybe we talk about a lot in the Black community that maybe you've never heard before. It's the magical Negro concept, that when something like this happens, we have a better chance of getting justice if the person is a magical Negro, if they went to Harvard, if they were in some great job, or if they were a lawyer, or if they were one of the elected officials, then maybe you have a better shot at getting justice. If it's Pookie in them, they deserve justice. If you have a 10th grade education, you deserve justice. There's nothing special about Christian Cooper that makes him more deserving of justice than anyone else. So I want you to resist that, because that's something that very well-intended white people say. And the guy, I mean, he went to Harvard. I mean, he was just this wonderful guy. And I know your intention when you say it, but to me, what I hear is, oh, if he was a high school dropout with a criminal record, then she could lie on him? That would be okay? And that's not what you mean, but I'm doing this, I'm having this conversation, I'm walking you through these stories because I want you to hear it the way I hear it. And I hope this is helpful. So if it's helpful, raise your hand. Make sure you're still with me. Are y'all still with me? All right. Woo, this is hard, y'all. Okay. George Floyd. Does anybody know who Tamir Rice is? Raise your hand if you know who Tamir Rice is. Tamir Rice was a 12-year-old boy, special needs, and he was standing on a street corner by himself, playing with a toy gun. Nobody was around him. He was standing on the street corner, playing with a toy gun. As my brothers had to do, because we didn't have any parks in my neighborhood. So he played where he could play. It's a 12-year-old playing by himself on a street corner. Someone called the police to say somebody's on the street corner with a gun. The police officer comes on scene, jumps the curb, and within 11 seconds shoots Tamir. He never says anything. There's never ever any effort to de-escalate. He doesn't ask him any questions. And there was video. That was 5, almost 6 years ago. Why was video important this time? I don't know. I don't know why more people care this time. I've been trying to unpack it. I've been trying to figure it out. And I think the only thing I can come up with is the length of the video. It's the sheer length. Because we always say, what happened before? Well, what could have led up to it? What, as if we're allowed to execute people on the street if something happened before. I don't know, I live in America. You're not allowed to be judge, jury, and executioner on the street, no matter what happened before. But okay, what happened before? We always ask that question, right? And be honest, if you've asked that question, just say yes in the chat. Yes, I've asked that question. What happened before the video? Well, we don't know what the rest of the story was. What could have been the catalyst? Well, what was going on? Like those kinds of questions. I think this video was different because there was no before. You got to sit and you got to watch the whole entire thing. The whole entire thing. So when the police lie and say he was struggling, he was resisting, if only he would comply. Anybody ever heard that phrase? If only he would comply. Was he complying? So I want to ask you a question. I want you to be really honest. I want you to think about it. Why do you think the officer did it? I mean, he's not insane, right? Why do you think he did it? Broad daylight, members of the community all around him, watching him do it. Why do you think he did it? People don't do stuff that doesn't work. They do stuff that serves them. So what would make somebody do something like that? I have a theory. Can I share it with you? My theory is based out of my life experience. The cops that I have been around, I have grown up in as I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in the city, in the hood, and all of it. They're not there to help me. They're there to terrorize me. The only reason that he would be doing that, all the people yelling, screaming, get off his neck, please, everybody, please get off his neck, da, 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 is to terrorize the people around that were watching. This was a show for the neighborhood. I can hurt you whenever I want. I can catch you whenever I want. I can restrain you whenever. I can do anything to you that I want. Now I want you to think about that. Think about Andy Griffith and think about this situation. How do we come so far? How did we come so far? I remember when my daughter was really little. I think we still lived in Abilene, Texas, and we were driving. I don't remember what highway we were driving on, but she was probably about 7 or 8, maybe younger. And cops pulled us over on a country Texas road, driving back to Abilene, and said, get out of the car. So I'm, it's night, I'm with a young child, like, get out of the car. What's going on? What's the problem? Get out the car. Can I search your car? He can't search my car. Why are you searching my car? What am I being accused of? But I'm here. I have a young child with me. I don't know how to control. Again, I'm the peacekeeper. I don't want my child to end up in foster care because, even for one night, not for one night, because of a misunderstanding. So I'm trying to comply. So I'm like, fine, search my car, because I know I don't have anything in my car. Think about that. I have to give up my freedom because I have to keep the peace. I have to manage the peace. He said, get out the car. And he made both Javen and I lay on the ground flat on the ground. Is there anybody on this call police has ever made you lay flat on the ground? Can you imagine a situation that your young or elementary school age child would be asked to lay on the ground face down? I have a different story than you about how police are. And I understand that is really stressful. It's stressful because you have a myth that I don't have. Your experiences, if your son is caught drinking or breaking mailboxes or whatever, the cop just brings them to you at the house and says, hey, get a hold of him, straighten him out. He doesn't take him down to the jail. Stop and frisk. Stop and frisk. I was talking with a friend of mine that wanted us to do a national tour to speak about relations between white women and Black women. And I said, you know what we could do? This is pre-COVID, of course. It would be awesome if we got a police officer to come into the room, grab a white woman, throw her against the wall, and frisk her. And she was like, oh, Denise, we could never do that. That would be terrible. I said, why would that be terrible? Why would that be terrible? That would be so traumatizing. That would be horrific. That would be so traumatic. My brothers were stopped and frisked 4, 5, 6, 7 times a week sometimes. So we have these two stories of policing. These two stories. And we haven't been listening to the stories. So now you got to see it. And I believe your heart. I believe that you would not be on this call if you did not sincerely believe, wow, we have to do something different. There is something different here. There is something we have to solve for. But I'm really laying my trauma bare for you so that you know what to say. So that you know how it feels, not because you lived it, but because you got to hear the truth. Because a lot of you don't hear the truth from somebody that looks like me and lives like me and has achieved like me. But it's my truth too. And I don't want you to think like this is a story that poor Black people have. This is a story that every Black person has. That's why there's so much rage, because everybody anchors to this story. Everybody. Let's talk about a few bad apples. Four is not a few bad apples. 4 people doing something together like this is not a few bad apples. This is systemic. And I want you to really think about something. I want you to think about an angle about this story that you probably haven't thought about. What universe do we live in that the whole country, the whole world can watch somebody murder, sit on somebody, 200 pounds of their body on someone until they stop breathing and not get arrested? I don't know if you saw the FBI. There was a press conference a few days after the murder, the day before Chauvin was arrested. There was a big press conference, and it was the FBI, and it was the Attorney General's office, and it was all the state officials, and it was just like big, and we were like, oh yeah, what's gonna happen now? And all they said is, I don't know, we have to see, we're figuring it out. We want to make sure we dot every I and cross every T. It was the whole legal apparatus could not figure out how to even put them in jail. We get put in jail because cops are in a bad mood. Because we were walking down the street at the wrong time of night. Because you were standing at the corner and they wanted to disperse you. We get thrown in jail for anything. How can the people that are in charge of policing our bodies not be held accountable when they destroy them, when they murder them? And I want you to move from the horror of the murder, because that's horrible. But I want to take you to the apparatus that was impotent, that was completely impotent in how to deal with it, because we have so mythologized the police force that they are without any consequence. I don't know about you. I heard a quote, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So where I need your help is I need you to not be focused on the murder. I need you to be focused on the apparatus that allows us to be killed in the street without consequence. I need some of that mothers against drunk driving energy. Who's got that? Anybody got that? I need some of that energy. Solve problems, like tackling, okay, how do we deal with cash bail? How do we do, you know what? How the gentleman that killed Tamir Rice, the officer that killed Tamir Rice, had a report in his training report that said in a practice in his training, he had lost control and gotten so crazy during a training that his training officer wrote in his report, he should never be a police officer. He should never have a gun because he can't handle whatever. Those reports are purged every 12 to 18 months. You can't go and say, Officer Jenkins, what is the report, your history of police abuse for the last 10 years? You can't get it. The FBI can't get it because the police unions have created such a wall of protection. I love police. If somebody's breaking in my house, I want to call the police. But if we have a situation where the apparatus is more concerned about protecting bad cops than they are about protecting citizens, what are we going to do? To me, and this is it feels harsh, and I want you to hear what people are saying when they say this. There are no good cops. That's how I feel, because a good cop wouldn't watch a bad cop kill us. It wouldn't watch a bad cop stop and frisk us. They wouldn't watch a bad cop give us tickets that were unfair. They wouldn't watch a bad cop. They just wouldn't. And that's not fair. So I'm being honest with you, but I want you to understand the emotion when you're in these conversations of how it feels, because I know your hearts. I know you want to help. I know you want to help. And I know, like, sometimes some of these themes that you hear all about the time, like, one of my favorite, Black on Black crime. Well, you should be concerned about Black on Black crime. Are we equating drug dealers and murderers with the police? Is that literally what we're saying? I should not be focused on the fact that police, the people that we pay to protect us, are killing us. I should be focused on criminals killing us. Got it. That's a great message, right? We have all these narratives that run through our psyche, and we just got to purge them. We got to purge them. All right. This is the most controversial thing that I'm going to say all day. Y'all ready? Buckle up. I already said a lot of stuff. I know y'all exhausted, but I need everybody on this call to make a promise for me. Stop telling Black people that violence doesn't work. Stop it. It's not true. Violence is how we got America. Violence is how we got the right end of slavery, the women's right to vote, the civil rights movement. It's all been violence. I want to make sure I have the right number. The military budget of the United States is $716 billion. Is that because we don't believe in violence? We spend that money because we don't believe in violence? We are plenty violent. That's not the question. The question is, why do we require violence? That's the question. Why didn't we listen when Kaepernick kneeled? I mean, there's some people right now that are having some hellified hindsight. It is 2020 as a mug. Because, wow, I really wish I had listened then. You didn't listen when it was a whisper, and now it screams. So you can say, I don't need that we, nonviolent, we need to do this peacefully, we need to do whatever. What would Martin Luther King do? I don't know. Let's call him and ask him. Oh, we can't, because he was killed by you. We can't. He was killed by the very people that, like, when Martin Luther King died, he had a 75% disapproval rate in the United States of America. We have mythologized him to be that he was a hero of the time. He was not. He was a hero throughout the world, but America hated Martin Luther King so much that he was killed. So telling Black people, why aren't you peaceful like Martin Luther King? Because I don't want to be dead like Martin Luther King. And that's a perfect example of something well-intentioned people say, and they're not thinking about it fully because you don't have my perspective. You don't have my view of it, right? So I'm trying, like I said, I'm gonna suspend my anger if you suspend your tears, right? I'm trying to meet you in the middle, and I'm trying to show you the framing that I hear your comments through. And I hope you can receive it as uplifting, because I'm not here to beat anybody down or to scold you. I'm really trying not to scold. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get you to peek into the perspective so that you understand it. So when you tell me one of the most violent countries on planet Earth, we are a superpower. We have more nuclear weapons than anybody else. When you tell me violence doesn't work, I don't believe you're not a honest broker of this conversation. Now, if you tell me we don't have to be violent, let's figure out how to move forward. Let's figure out how to solve these problems. You hear the difference? I can work with you. But when you tell me something that you don't even do, we have people that sit in Langley and fire a drone and blow up something halfway across the world. We don't believe in violence? We believe in violence a hell of a lot. So do I support people burning and looting? And of course not. But I also want us to be honest and to where you punctuate a story is so important. You can't start the story at the end. You've got to start the story at the beginning. And whew, all right, this is the next hardest thing I'm gonna say. And this is hard, y'all. But y'all said you were with me, so I'm going in. You're not afraid of violence. You weren't afraid of violence when it was happening to me. You weren't afraid of the trauma and the violence that I was experiencing. So the trauma now is just out of my body. You didn't care that our infant mortality rates are 5 times what white women's are. You didn't care about the Black men in prison. You didn't care about failing schools. You didn't care that Black wealth is like 5 or 6 cents for every dollar of white wealth. You didn't care about stop and frisk. You didn't care about us being locked out of PPP. You didn't care about us having higher COVID rates. We didn't care. When the violence was happening to us, it didn't matter. Let's be honest. Do you think it's violent in Black neighborhoods in America? Do you think that schools that a same city and one school gets $5,000 a student per year and another gets $25,000 a year or $45,000 or $65,000 a year? You don't think that's violent? You don't think it's violent that you set up an Ivy League that largely excludes us, but it's the passport for us to enter any kind of legitimacy or to be valued in our society? That's not violent? So now the violence is now outside of our bodies, and you're getting to experience that violence, and it's terrible and it's miserable, and it's been 9 days. I'm gonna be 50 in October. It's been 50 years. It's been 9 days and y'all are worn out. So when you're talking to people, when you're processing, when you're thinking about this, I want you to understand why sometimes Black people react. And I'm telling you, Black people on the call, sometimes we are way harsh. We are way out of line. We are too tough. It is really hard. But I want you to understand why. It's because these are the things that are running through our minds sometimes when you're talking to us. You want to protest that you can look away from. Well, they don't have to protest that way. How should they protest? Should somebody quietly, silently take a knee? Would that work? Oh no, we don't want that either. So you don't want it quiet and you don't want it loud. Where do you want it? In the closet? Here's another delicious little part of this story. We pay the civil settlements. Cops will kill Black people, then they have to pay a civil settlement, and the taxpayers pay it. They don't even pay for the penalty. We pay it. So now you cut all the programs because we don't have enough money to take care of the people because we spent our money paying the settlements. New York last year paid $230 million in wrongful death and police brutality settlements. $230 million. How many after-school programs? How many lunches? How many community centers? Right? We are paying for people to kill us. Here's another one I love. Why don't I just leave? If America is so terrible, if you hate it so much, why don't you just leave? That's a good question. Why do I have to leave to get justice? That's a better question. That's a better question. Why do I have to leave to get justice? I believe justice is possible. If you think justice is possible, raise your hand. I believe justice is possible. I believe that we can do this. We can do better. All right, I've been saying a lot. I want you, if you have a question, an actual question, I want you to send it privately to Javen. Javen is gonna read it because I want you to be able to write it. There are no dumb questions today. You can say it as politically incorrect as you want to say it. I'm here for y'all. I will answer it however you want to answer it. And while you're putting those questions in, I'm going to say a few more things. What now? Okay, so now that I've like terrorized y'all for an hour, what now? I want you to understand that any remedy we offer is insufficient. This is a marathon, not a sprint. There's no quick answer. There's no shortcut. There's no the thing that you could whoop and it's all fine. This is the most complicated. It's been intentionally structured. So I can't give you some magic, spell to weave, right? So I'm gonna need you, and that's true for everybody on this call. That's Black people, white people, Asian people. That's everybody on this call. We want all the officers arrested. So what if they're all arrested? Somebody the police, 6 officers in Atlanta were just fired because they pulled some young college students out of their deal and tased them. This is not about one case. And I know it feels like if we could just get this, then this will be over. It's not gonna be over. And I need you to not think of it as how do we make it be over? I need you to think about it as how do I check the part that I play in this? And how do I change and impact the people around me to move the ball forward? This is a game of inches. It's a game of inches. There's no litmus test. Oh, well, did the company put out a statement? I don't really care if they did or didn't. And some people really do, so there's no judgment, but I don't really care. I want people to I don't care if you put out a beautiful statement about how you're so down for diversity, but you have no Black people in your leadership team, no Black people on your board of directors, no Black contracts, I don't care. I don't care about your performance. I care about real change. Elka Laughlin is on here, and Elka, when I started in commercial real estate, she was a champion for me, and those guys hazed me so badly. They treated me so badly. And I remember Elka and I were in a hotel room and she said, I don't know how you do it. And I remember the question struck me as so odd because what else am I gonna do? What else am I gonna do? I have to run through the gauntlet to get anything that I have. That's how I think. So I'm gonna be honest with you. It angers me sometimes when y'all just get stuff. It angers me when you cry at the workforce or when in the workplace, you use your power to put me in a compromised position. It angers me because I think we're all women. My God, like, let's all work together. So I want you to understand that something really, really important to a lot of Black people, and this is like probably the most important thing I'm going to say today. To a lot of Black people, your newfound horror, your newfound surprise, your newfound desire to be an ally is infuriating. We saw the video 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Rodney King was 30 years ago. So to some people, you will not be welcome. And I need you to ride with that. I need you to understand that some people are going to be impatient with you. And sometimes in our desire to be perfectionists and our desire to always say the right thing, we say nothing. And I'm going to need you to take some risks. I'm going to need you to say, you know, I'm sorry, that might have been inartful, but here was my heart. Here was my intention. And it may not be easy. It may not. Sometimes we're mad. We're really, really angry. We're really, really angry. And when I have these conversations with Black people, I talk about that anger and I encourage them to focus it for solutions, to focus it for how do we move the ball forward, right? But I need you to understand that we can't solve for you. This is not a time that we can make you comfortable or we can't solve for you right now. We have to solve for ourselves. And sometimes you'll be welcome in those conversations and sometimes you won't. All right, we got some great questions. All right, Javen's ready. Y'all all right? Y'all okay? Everybody still in love? I love y'all. Okay. All right, go ahead, Javen.
We have a lot of great questions in here. The first was, any tips for calling out racist relatives, especially parents/authorities in our lives?
Yes. I think that we think that it's a light switch, and I think it's actually a dimmer. I think we have to celebrate the incremental change. We have to keep saying the small arguments. We escalate the conflict instead of keeping the conflict at a place where it's just, I just have a different thought. Have you thought about this? You know, could you consider that? We're seeding the discussion and keeping it cool. I don't get to lose my cool, right? I don't get to flip out and curse people out, and because I'll be the angry Black woman. So over the years, I've learned that I don't have to go to every fight I'm invited to. But I'm a woman of faith, and I always pray. I set my intention of what I want to accomplish, like I did for this call today. And I trust that God is going to give me the increase. I don't know when. You don't know, like some people, I've had the most conservative people in my life call me and say, Denise, I'm so sorry. I was really wrong. I really misjudged this. I was totally off. And it's because I have been consistently talking with them. I didn't shut them out, because that's the temptation, right? To retreat to our corners. We can't retreat to our corners. We can't cut people off. We can't shut them out. Like, I want you to challenge yourself to stay in the fight, even if it's difficult. And remember, like, these are people that you love, you care about. And just, maybe it's two points today, 7 points tomorrow. It may not be a light switch. Oh, thank you so much for talking to me. I'm hella woke now. That's not how it works. That's just not how it works. Okay, another question?
Yes. The next question is there anything that your white friends have done over the past years that has been helpful?
Oh my gosh, yes. You make space for me. Look at this call. We had 300 people registered on this call. I thought it was going to be like 20 people. I think that these people, you amplify me. You create a space for me. You invite me to speak in your organizations. You back me on social media when I post something. You share, you amplify my voice. You listen. I know sometimes I say things and you're like, wait, I don't know. That's kind of harsh, but you challenge yourself and you think about it and you give it a chance because you know my heart. Yes. Yes. See, the thing about this is like, I think we cannot do this without white people. This is not our problem. This is a white problem. Racism is not Black people's problem. We're the object of it. This is a white problem. So I would not be who I am, where I am without white people. White people show up for me every single day, every single solitary day. And I challenge myself to have actual white friends. And I want to challenge you to have actual Black friends, Asian friends. Like Angela, Cody, look at you hugging. Y'all are so cute. Are y'all being socially distant? Anyway, like I think that we need to find the hearts of each other, the parts of each other that are the same. We're so much more similar than we are different. So much more similar. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want authentic relationships with amazing people, and amazing people come in every shape, color, size, and orientation. So yes.
All right, our next question.
If you're not, please mute yourself.
Our next question. I wonder, as a witness to crimes being committed by police officers, what can you do as a concerned citizen? As in the case of Mr. George Floyd, what if those witnesses had risked their lives to save him? What if the other officer was not kneeling on Mr. Floyd, who was not kneeling on Mr. Floyd, had shot them for intervening?
He would have shot them. There's nothing they could have done. That's the whole point. They were helpless. Again, he would have shot them. That's not true for you. White women have a different power. If a white woman had been walking by and stopped in and said, hey, 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 what's going on? He probably would have gotten up. That's a hard thing to admit. That's a hard thing for a grown woman to say. He wouldn't have cared if I was there. He would have cared if you were there. Whew.
All right, the next question. My white daughter wants to speak up in support of fixing racism, but is afraid she will say something wrong. And just what do you have to say on that?
We just have to get over the fear. You're gonna say something wrong. It's not if you're gonna say something wrong. You're gonna say something wrong. But you know what? I used Elka as an example earlier. Lauren is on here. Because I know your heart. Carolyn's on here. Amy Hertz is on. Mary, because I know your heart, Maria, all the people I'm seeing. If you say something wrong, I don't care. Because I know your heart. If you have a track record, you can make a lot of mistakes. But the people that have trouble is the people that don't have a track record. They don't invest in those relationships so that when something comes up and it's a hiccup point, they can't, it's terrible because you don't have a track record. So I think it's if you invest the time to build the actual relationship, then if somebody says something that offends you or upsets you, you will work through it. This race, we have had a number done on us. We are all in this soup of nonsense. It's all nonsense, right? We're all in this, we don't even see the water. We're fish. We don't even see the water. We don't even understand like what water is because we're so immersed in this. So immersed in this. So I think that I would tell your daughter, make some Black friends. Make some friends that are not like you. All right. Oh, we're almost out of time. Okay, Javen, a few more questions.
All right, our next question is, What's the best first question we can ask to get the conversation?
I'm sorry, repeat again.
What's the best first question we can ask to get the conversation started?
How are you? How are you? Is there anything I can do to help? We can listen more than we talk. Even in this conversation, I struggled with, should we have everybody give their comments? Should we let everybody talk? And I was like, no, because I want to even model for you the thing that I'm saying for you to do. Listen. Listen more than you talk. Just pass the mic. Give somebody else a chance to speak. Let people tell their own story. Do you know how dispiriting it is to not even be able to tell your own story? That other people get to tell your story? It's dispiriting, right? So pass the mic. Make real relationships. Make real connections with people. That's what it's going to take. I don't have like people that I tolerate in my life that are white. I have white friends. Friends I could call from jail. Friends that would drive the getaway car. That's what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? White friends. We need to be more friends, and we need to understand that it's work. It's work. You have to be intentional. You can't be intentionally exclusive for hundreds of years and then be accidentally inclusive. We have created intentionally white spaces. Be honest. How many of your spaces are intentionally white? The schools, the church, they're intentionally white spaces. How do we break that up? How do we break those spaces up and make them more inclusive? That's going to take intention. You can't do that accidentally. All right. So we're wrapping up to the end of our time.
Well, wait, before you wrap up,
yes.
I actually think that question was also directed to how do you start the conversation with your white friends and family members.
Oh, about these issues? You just pointed out. How do you start a conversation about anything? We have to stop being afraid of upsetting people. We just have to. It's upsetting. There are things that are actually upsetting. You're not going to break. Nobody's going to die. Somebody says something, call them on it. At least at the very minimum, they'll learn that they can't say it around you. That's progress. I think that's progress, don't you? Like we have to create a culture. I remember I was on a panel once and they were talking about how women don't get along and women are competitive with each other and and I was like, they were talking and I was like, I'm sure I do not know what you were talking about. The women in my community are ride or die. They help. I don't have women like that in my space. I have women that I can call and ask for almost anything. So I was like, what are you talking about? And they kind of like all attacked me. Well, and I said, if you have those problems in your life, it's because that's what you permit. Water seeks its own level. And if you have friends that's how they operate, you need some new friends. People need to have a cost. Your allyship has to cost something, right? It can't be like, we're not going to change this nicely. There's no peaceful, quiet way, right? We don't want riots, right? We just said we don't want violence. Can we risk a conflict? Can we risk a disagreement? If you don't want that, you're going to have to do this. Does that make sense? Oh my gosh, Julie says, I won't be a wimp anymore. Come through, Julie. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Thanks.
So, I love it so much. I want to be respectful of your time and let you go. I know I've given you lots to think about. And I understand some of you are having watch parties after this. I was like, what? This just really blew my mind, this whole experience. But I got a call yesterday and I got basically cursed out about this event. A dear friend of mine said, extremely angry with me because I did this for free. And she said, once again, Black people are being required to help white people solve their own problem. And she was very angry that by not charging for this, I have set a standard that Black people are expected to help white people through, that the wealths of our communities are totally different, but we're expected to help you. And she's right. And she's right. She said, you are cheapening our experience. And I hadn't thought about it that way. So I didn't, somebody said, yeah, she's not wrong. I was shocked that it was free. I know. My heart, y'all, that was my heart. But anyway, she's absolutely right. And so Javen is putting my Cash App in the notes. And I'm super uncomfortable with this because that wasn't my heart. But at the same time, she said, when you cheapen you cheapen all of us. And we're all learning. So the Cash App is in the notes. And if you feel like you got some value out of today, I invite you to do whatever your heart says to do. But I also invite you for that practice with everyone that you ask to help. There are going to be a number of Black people that have programs, and they're doing the work on the ground. And you should pay them. They should be paid for the work that they're doing, because they're changing the world for all of us. Somebody asked me, how do I talk to my children about this? I really want to protect my children. And I said, Black children don't get to be protected from racism. Our children don't get to be protected. We have to learn about it. So we're teeny tiny. So this is gonna be a lot of work. And like I said when I started, this is hard. So I wanna thank you all so much. The people that shared this, the people that amplified me, I never in a million years thought it would be this many people. I never in a million years thought that people would share it with their friends and share it with their friends and share it with, this is not even what I thought was gonna happen. And I value the trust that you put in me, because I think it's a trust. That I would help you and not scold you and beat you up and harm you, because that's not what I want to do. So I love you all so much. Thank you so much. I hope that you stay engaged. People keep asking me what's next. I have no idea. No idea. I'll be thinking about that. If you want to hear more, if you have any other ideas, if you have any thoughts, any ways that you could, if you have the ability to engage me in your company, whatever. I just want to help people understand this, because I don't think enough people do. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a fantastic week. I was talking to Javen this morning, and I said, we're gonna have a good day. And she said, there are no more good days. And it feels like that sometimes, like it's all bad news. It's all so horrible. It's all so terrible, but it's not. Look at these faces. Look, scroll through. I want you to scroll through the whole, all of these people. I'm like, my mind is blown. Look at all of these faces that are on here. The world is not terrible. We are not, the bad guys don't get to win, because we're not gonna let them. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here today, and I hope you have an amazing week. Bye.